Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A very warm good afternoon to every one of you. Today, in the series of talks, voice talks, we are interacting with Mushtaq Sikander, and we will be today speaking about knowledge and Muslims. As you all know, knowledge is a very important aspect of religion for Muslims. For us, the first word was Ikra, Ikra Bismillah Rabbika. So that in itself emphasizes that how important it is for Muslims to gain knowledge, to have knowledge, and to make efforts to seek knowledge. We are continuing with this series, and inshallah, in coming also we will have Mushtaq Sahab, who would be who would be with us, and will be talking on various issues. Mushtaq Sahab is a writer, activist, and researcher from Jammu and Kashmir. And thank you, sir, for being with us. It is
Thank
a
you for
pleasure.
the invitation.
It's a pleasure to have you, and we really support. We really thank you for your support. So today's topic is knowledge in Muslims. ठीक है, Bismillah करें. I would like to request you to please start with your talk.
Yeah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Regarding knowledge, Islam always emphasized, and as you yourself recited, Ikra, Bismi Rabbika Lazi Khalaq, that is the first verse revealed to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and that relates to that read. So, reading, recitation, emphasize on tadabbur, that Quran calls that deep pondering and analysis, and then also the tradition of writing. It's embedded within Islam, and Islam exemplifies as well as it emphasizes that Muslims should be a reading community, because only the readers are the leaders. So within the Islamic Weltanschauung, we find that Prophet emphasized, despite that there's a popular perception that Prophet was unlettered Prophet, and himself he could not read and write, but the Muslims and later on Muslims build a tradition in which reading, writing, knowledge was a part and parcel of every Muslim's life. And in ahadith as well as in Quran, it's emphasized that every Muslim should certainly have that amount of knowledge that will certainly lead to his salvation. So every Muslim, it's emphasized that he or she should have an ample amount of knowledge that will first of all help him recite the daily prayers, and that as well as that will help him to distinguish between the halal and haram, the unlawful and lawful. So for that purpose, and then later on in the hereafter, knowledge is very essential for salvation. So with these things, Islam certainly emphasizes for knowledge of for every Muslim, whether he or she belongs to a different area, different region. It's a common denomination that goes beyond the gender, that goes beyond the nationality. That every Muslim man and woman should have an ample source of knowledge that will certainly help him to stay away from illegal things, that and help him to go for whatever is obligatory, whether it's the prayers, whether it's the Hajj, whether it's the calculation of zakat, as well as in the hereafter for salvation. Knowledge is very essential. So Islam recommends that a certain amount of knowledge is very much essential for every man and woman. As I stated, that regarding prayers, it's very essential. For the calculation of zakat, it's very essential. While going for Hajj, it's very essential. So, and in our day-to-day life matters, suppose in the distribution of property that we have to do calculations, and in our daily transactions, numerous daily transactions. So we need essential basic understanding of knowledge, whether related to mathematics, whether related to other such issues. And Islam doesn't certainly believe in the division of knowledge between religious and secular, that of late has become a norm within the Muslim world. But in the original text as well as the Muslim tradition before the colonialism, Muslims didn't divide knowledge between secular and religious, or transcendental and worldly. There was just a distinction of ilmun nafiya and gair nafiya. That's ilm
Hmm.
from which you can be benefited and ilm from which you are not benefited. The gair nafiya, like the magical sciences, the occult sciences, the pseudo sciences, so that are not beneficial, so that are qualified as ilmul gair nafiya. But as far as the ilm as such, or knowledge as such, is concerned, it's a holistic concept in Islam, and Islam does not divide or compartmentalize knowledge into different divisions of worldly being worldly knowledge or religious knowledge. So the Islamic paradigm of knowledge is holistic in its essence. So as I stated, that Islam, without having a ample amount of knowledge, no Muslim can strive for salvation. No Muslim can fulfill his her religious obligations, particularly of the prayer. So certainly, ample amount of knowledge, a certain amount of knowledge is required by every Muslim. So that's why Islam emphasizes on knowledge very much. The emphasis is very strong on accumulating knowledge, and it's declared as farz, not as farz kifaya, but as farz ain. That's the obligatory farz. That's the obligatory part of thing that every Muslim man and woman should have that amount of knowledge. So that is
Yeah.
basically the concept
Hmm.
of knowledge for Muslims, as far as Muslims are concerned.
Yeah, for the people who have joined us now, I would like to tell them that today we have been talking with Mushtaq Sikander. He's a researcher, writer from Jammu and Kashmir. He has also edited few books, and we are talking today on the topic of knowledge and Muslims. How important is it for a Muslim to gain knowledge and work for it? As we often hear the saying कि इल्म को हासिल करने के लिए अगर चीन भी जाना है, even if you have to go to China to gain knowledge, you should go. And this particular saying was also said to me when I was sent from Srinagar to Bangalore to seek knowledge to go for my higher studies. So yes, one has to work very hard and one has to try to gain knowledge by all means. However, we are looking at how knowledge can form a society, how important it is within the society, and we'll also be soon talking about the House of Wisdom, Baitul Hikmah, inshallah. Ji, ji Sikandar Saab, please continue.
Yes, and even during prophetic times, we find that Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam even emphasized and sent people like Zaid bin Sabit to learn languages like Hebrew, Syriac, because Prophet had to communicate, write letters to different kings and do the correspondence. So it was obligatory for few people to learn these languages, and as well as to understand the previous religious texts, whether the Torah or New Testament, the Bible. So for that purpose, few people were sent to learn this language, and we find that example of Zaid bin Sabit, whom Prophet told that you should go and seek knowledge of these languages. So there is no barrier in Islam, or Islam does not debar or abhor studying different cultures, studying different languages. But the purpose basically is to discover new kind of people, discover new languages, understand different cultures, and build bridges and communicate with the other people. Because at that time they had to spread the message of Islam. They had to do this itmam hujjat, what's called, that they have to spread the knowledge of Islam. They have to reach out to the every corner of the world with the message of Islam and Prophet's message. That's why the Quran is the last testament. So Muslims, because of that missionary purpose of spreading Quran as well as the prophetic example, and making it known to the whole world and different peoples and nationalities. So they traveled, they crossed different oceans, they studied their languages, their cultures, and at the time of Abbasis, we witnessed that how Baitul Hikmah is founded, in which the Greek texts are translated of the Socrates, of Plato, and other such philosophers. Muslims gave a new life to the Greek philosophy that was basically in oblivion. So it were the Muslim translators who basically purchased or brought these books of Greeks related to philosophy, related to ilmul kalam, related to logic, related to other
mm,
such allied branches and languages, and then translated them under the state patronage, because we know that Abbasids basically founded this Darul Hikmah, and later on in Egypt we have Darul Hikmah. In Baghdad we have under Abbasis we have the Baitul Hikmah. So after that we have in Egypt Darul Hikmah, as I stated. So the Darul Hikmah basically translated texts from into Latin language and then into Arabic. So in Baitul Hikmah, we witnessed that the Greek texts were translated into Arabic and other allied languages. So it certainly built a whole movement within the Muslims of knowledge, in which they studied uh, Greek logic, Greek philosophy, and then they questioned different kind of things. And with this kind of understanding that Islam brought, basically the Quranic Weltanschauung and Quranic concept of monotheism, that is the Tawheed. Before that, except for the Greeks, in other kind of nations and other type of religions that were existing, the variegated amount of people who were basically reeling under superstition. The nature was considered as something sacred. So it was the Muslim concept of Tawheed that sacralized the authenticity or sacredness of nature and put it before for exploration, because otherwise before Muslims we don't witness so much understanding of the natural phenomena. So you have in the even among the Greeks you have the Greek gods of rain, Greek the gods of fire, the gods of anger, the gods of hatred, and these gods usually clashed with each other. But when the Muslims came with the concept of this Tawheed that already was present but diluted in the earlier religions, so they desacralized, or the sacredness of the natural phenomena was taken away. So they were open for exploration. So that's why we witness progress in scientific kind of knowledge, in the exploration of these natural phenomena, in understanding of astrology, so development of metaphysics, development of astronomy, development of medicine, so understanding of the natural phenomena that's happening. So when this naturalness or this sacredness was divorced from these natural phenomena, so Muslims started to study and understand this phenomena. So we have a whole tradition of Muslim science that developed under the Abbasids, and then later on Umayyads, and even among the Fatimites, and later on Ottoman Turkey also. And then we also witnessed decline later on. But in that 400, 500, 600 period, when the Muslims were conquering different lands, they were translating the texts, they were understanding, trying to understand this phenomena, and there was a spirit of state patronage and a spirit of free inquiry, when the rulers would offer money and efforts, and for translation, for the state patronage was given to knowledge and these scholars, and there was minimal kind of intervention by state or by clergy to curtail the activities or spirit of free inquiry, though it had its own pitfalls and shortcomings that we witnessed in the form of different academic kind of debates, the Kalami Mubahis that we often refer or often witness during those times going on between different scholars and philosophers. But again, this spirit of free inquiry helped in building that kind of Muslim civilization, where one can openly go for scientific type of research, and there was freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and freedom to hold different views, as compared to the European and other nations that were imposing their images at that time. And we witness how much Galileo and Francis Bacon and others were persecuted by the clergy and church, because it was Islam, first of all, that separated this kind of understanding that this natural phenomena, what is happening, it's basically not the subject of Quran or subject. So it divorced these natural phenomena and gave Muslims the right to freely inquire. As I stated, that it divorced the sacredness that was associated with the natural phenomena or nature, that earlier in earlier traditions and earlier regions it continued, but with Muslims, when this sacredness was gone, so they tried to understand these natural phenomena and how. And this inquiry led to many kinds of discoveries that we witness in the form of Ibn Nafis, who studied about the blood circulation, or other Muslim explorers who went to different places to explore and wrote books about their people and translated those texts. So it again built a whole kind of knowledge system within the Muslim world, and that spirit of free inquiry, of freedom to conduct research without intervention of the clergy or the state, it certainly did usher in a new era of enlightenment, what we call enlightenment, or the knowledge system that was produced within the Muslims. So in that manner, it was altogether a different era, which has these peculiarities, where the natural phenomena was understood through scientific process, where free inquiry was done into natural phenomena, where the state was basically patronizing these scientists and scholars, where observatories were built by the state or by different rulers to help the astronomers study the comets and stars and their revolution or rotation or whatever other phenomena were associated with it. So we witness, and then in the discoveries in the medicine, medical field, the Al Qanun is written by Ibn Sina and others. So we have witnessed a whole lot of scholars and scientists and philosophers indulging in different streams of knowledge and helping to usher in that era on which later on the West built the Renaissance and other such phenomena or enlightenment. So from Muslims, those texts were then transferred to Europe, but in most cases we witness that Europeans changed the names of these Muslim scholars, and didn't basically acknowledge that it was on the Muslim spirit of inquiry that the Renaissance or the Renaissance or the Enlightenment whole movement was built in Italy and Rome and other such places. So that's a real unfortunate reality.
Ji. Coming back to the present times, how do you look at knowledge? And you just spoke and made us realize that there was a golden period of knowledge when from medicine to astronomy to anatomy to algebra, math, everything was actually worked on by the Muslim scientists, by those educationists who were basically Muslims, and how there was a royal patronage towards it. But now, when we speak of the current times, how do you look at it, and what is the way forward?
In current times, we witness, basically not in current times, this rot or the decline of Muslim knowledge.
Ji.
It goes back to the invasion of Mongols and the conquest of different
Here
Muslim
I would
lands.
like to, Mushtaq, here I would like to add, many people don't know that Changiz Khan, because he's
Yes.
a Khan, so they think that he's also Muslim. So many people have that confusion. Here I would like to add that no, he was not a Muslim, and the way he brutalized, or the way he massacred people in Baghdad, you, and how it is said that how blood was flown there in the rivers for days and days, and the ink of the books was there for many days. So many people have this confusion who may not be going too deep into the history or into the text. So they somehow relate Mongols, somehow relate Genghis Khan to Islam. So you may also speak on that. Yeah.
Yes, the Mongols were basically barbaric tribes, and there's again a whole history how they were basically, their correspondent was killed by a Muslim ruler, and then they started going on and on the killing spree of Muslims. But later on, after Genghis Khan, his grandson, he became a Muslim, and most of these Mongols converted to Islam, and that uh, mm, uh, process of conversion is again a very dynamic aspect of Islam, that where the swords of Muslims had failed to conquer them, but there the missionary spirit of Muslims, it helped them to understand these barbaric tribes became Muslim, and then later on they helped usher in a new era of Muslim dynamism. That's something different. But as far as the rot and decline in the Muslim knowledge system is concerned, it started with the Mongols, because when the Mongols started attacking Muslim these bastions of power, particularly the Baghdad, where that was a seat of the Abbasid ruler, and Baitul Hikmah was destroyed, as you yourself stated that the ink flowed in the rivers, and it was basically because they were illiterate, barbaric tribes, so they had no kind of concern related to knowledge. So that's why they destroyed the Baitul Hikmah, and most of the books were burnt or thrown into rivers. So with that reason, there a lot of Muslim knowledge was lost. The translations were lost, and then the ulama who rose to the challenge, or the Muslim intellectuals at that time who were faced with this kind of challenge of these barbaric tribes who were killing Muslims en masse. And they stated that now whatever ijtihad or whatever writing or whatever translation has been done, it's over. So we find that in this era only the four schools of thought were so much compartmentalized and straitjacketed, because due to the challenge that the Muslims now can't afford to do ijtihad, because the state patronage is gone and we have the onslaught of Mongols. So the knowledge again needs a serenity and peaceful atmosphere for it to perpetuate, for you to do research. So in that era, the doors of ijtihad somehow were closed down, and then instead of spirit of inquiry, we witness something of Sufi, a certain kind of Sufi thought getting much more solidified, in the sense that they stated that this is just from the God and we can't do anything. So they gave into that kind of understanding. So with the result, we witness that in the case of even Imam Ghazali, in his last days, when he before that he wrote Tahafatul Falasfa. After that he converted to Sufism, and then he believed in certain notion of Islam, where the free inquiry is certainly not so much encouraged. So we witness that within Sufism also a certain kind of fatalism was inculcated among Muslims, and the dynamism of Islam that is a result of basically the knowledge streams was lost. And later on, when the Mongols converted, this door of ijtihad could not be opened, because now it was difficult, because many laws were there, and also the blasphemy law that we witness today was basically made or enacted during that time. And also the ulama who were not scientists, who were not holistic, like we witnessed in the case of Imam Ghazali or Ibn Rushd or Ibn Sina and others, who had knowledge of Islam as well as the science and other allied subjects. So now we had just a clergy who didn't have the scientific kind of understanding of things, but they just had this religious kind of knowledge, again in a very sectarian sense, not in holistic kind of sense. So they debarred any kind of free inquiry. And later on we witness, suppose in case of Ottoman Turkey, that is where this Taqiyuddin built an observatory. The Murad III was the ruler, and he helped him build the observatory in 1577, and then it was destroyed in 1580, stating this thing, that it's not allowed that we inquire into the natural phenomena of the comets or stars and the planets and other such issues. So this kind of closing the doors of ijtihad, as well as having blind spots related to now free inquiry and scientific kind of research, it resulted certainly in the stagnation of the Muslim mind. And once the doors of ijtihad were closed, so it became very difficult to open them up. And later on, coupled with the phenomena of colonialism, because we witnessed that in 1800s, the late 18th century, the colonialism of different Muslim lands started, because in West, in Europe, there was this Renaissance and Enlightenment movement. So they had again divorced religion from science. That has never happened. Something that never happened with the Muslims. But in Europe, it was very essential, because clergy was persecuting the scientists, and they were trying to impose their religious thought over the free scientific inquiry. So there, the movement basically divorced science from religion, and Muslims didn't need to do that because Islam emphasized for a free spirit of scientific inquiry. But once they made on the one hand, Muslims had this stagnation of the thought due to the Mongol invasion, as well as other allied reasons that I discussed, that the Muslim mind became stagnated, the state patronage to the scientific inquiry was lost, and then also the clergy became very much sectarian. So these all reasons coupled in the stagnation of Muslim thought, and on the other hand, the Europe basically that was industrialization took place, the Enlightenment was there, the scientific discoveries and inventions were being made, and steam engine helped bridge the gap between different distant lands. So the steam ships were built. So that
Yeah, there was
led to a
a later.
colonial, and with the colonialism of the Muslim lands, so the spirit of free inquiry again got lost, and we witnessed that in case of Egypt, there was some kind of the Mustafa Pasha and others tried to do a certain kind of enlightenment or certain kind of development, but they were not successful. Their efforts were not successful, and ultimately, most of the Muslim lands were colonized by the European powers, and with the result that ulama and others, scientists, they lost the patronage, and the ulama became very much defensive. They thought that earlier, even if there were conquests by the other non-Muslims, the personal law and education system and other things, they continue to remain the same. But with the advent of this colonialism, the Muslim personal laws were supposed, the Muslim polity was gone, the economic style was gone. We witnessed that the currency, with the introduction of the currency earlier, paper currency. Before that, we had a different type of gold or silver currency, and education system again witnessed a whole new overhaul, and political class, political elites were disturbed. The Maulvis or the clergy that were under previously under the state patronage, they had to do away with their do away with the state patronage. So with this whole British or the European colonialism, so the Muslims were on the at the back of their mind. It came. They realized that now it's very difficult for them to survive. So, with this survival crisis created something that still continues. This colonial mindset among the Muslims, that the colonialism developed among Muslims, it still perpetuates and continues. And in this mindset, any kind of free inquiry, knowledge can't be built. So they try to preserve whatever knowledge they had, whatever ijtihad was done by the earlier kind of scholars. They try to preserve that, and they try to basically preserve their identity, because they felt that this colonialism will certainly have an impact on them, that it will rob them of their identity, of their Muslimness, Muslim consciousness, because it already had attacked their political system, their economic system, their education system, their cultural system, and also they were just left with few Muslim personal laws. And with the advent of colonialism, we witnessed that there was a whole proselytization process, and the Christian missionaries came to these colonized lands where they tried to convert or proselytize these Muslims. So again, it gave rise to different apprehensions related to colonialism. So that's why we witnessed that Muslims were very much reluctant to just adopt any lifestyle of these colonial masters, whether it's related to education, whether it's related to knowledge, whether it's related to polity. So majority of the Muslims started a boycott of these European institutions of their
Even
colonial
paper,
masters.
even paper.
Yes, so that is the reason that the knowledge system gained a very strong hit, and it had grave ramifications, and those ramifications we still witness. So there were certain kind of movements that tried to bridge the divide between colonial masters and the Muslim subjects, like we witness in the subcontinent. We had the movement of Aligarh, led by Sir Said Ahmad Khan, who tried to rationally do the tafsir of Quran, who try to understand rationally the principles of Quran and Islam. But his efforts again were met with a very little success. And on the other hand, we had the movement like Deoband, that again started in 1867. So the Deoband tried to preserve the Muslimness, and it was for again for the boycott of whole Muslim institutions. So this kind of these two reactions we witness in most Muslim lands. That one is for a limited kind of bridging the divide, a limited kind of gaining or limited kind of cooperation and support with the colonial masters, and other is that is the majority, particularly the Muslim clergy. They are complete for the complete boycott and of these colonial institutions and systems. So that's why with the colonialism, the knowledge system that came among Muslims, it was again boycotted. So we witness that today the Muslims continue with the same type of mindset, and it is very unfortunate that despite the colonialism is over, the same type of mindset continues, because the madrasas produce the same type of ulama, and most of their curriculum has not witnessed any kind of change. They still witness these political, social, educational institutions as something vice, or as something Western or European, that is there to threaten their own identity. So, with the result that Muslims have not been able to contribute much to the new civilization that has been born out of Enlightenment or European Renaissance. So, we witness that Muslims still continue with that mindset of boycott. And
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
in case of religion,
There is definitely a need for modernization of madrasas, but we also have to look at the difficulties and the operational, the financial, and the social difficulties which they face while operating in current times anywhere in this South Asia area. We need to recognize their efforts as well, but at the same time, there is a huge scope for madrasas to get modernized. Yes, please continue.
yes, so that's what I was saying, that regarding the ijtihad and knowledge creation, because ijtihad is basically for knowledge creation, and most of the Muslims, particularly even related to Islam, we have what I call that we have a hegemony of the dead brains over us. It can be very much understood by this fact that suppose we still our schools of thought follow Imam Ghazali or Imam Taymiyyah and Shah Waliullah Dehelvi. So they are where our reverend ulamas, they have contributed a lot to the Islamic discourse and Islamic narratives that they have built. But certainly they are not aware about the current problems that Muslims are facing. Suppose related to organ transplant, suppose related to flying through aeroplane, whether related to operations, whether related to surrogacy, whether related to different issues that contemporary Muslims face, related to banking and interest type of
There's
problems,
need
whether
for
related to
ijtihad. Need for
democracy.
ijtihad.
So, but most of the ulama are not ready to do ijtihad. They state that whatever ijtihad has been done by these reverend ulama. So they don't want to come out of this watertight compartmentalization, and that
That
certainly has now led to such a impasse among the Muslims, that they are not able to understand the contemporary challenges, because they are using the same framework and same lenses that were relevant maybe 500, 400, 600 years ago. And within the colonialism, our reaction again has been just of a limited kind of cooperation or outright rejection. So we have not tried to build bridges, try to learn from
Mhm.
the advances of the sciences that the West has done. We have not been able to understand, or even among the Muslim nations that became free after the end of colonialism and Second World War, most of the Muslims have not been able to, Muslim nations have not been able to develop well scientifically. They have not been able to advance much knowledge, or even in humanities. Even if you talk about the Islamic studies, the ulama have not been able to contribute much. But most of the research in Islamic studies is again done marvelously in the Western universities, because there is the
Biology.
spirit of free inquiry. And Muslim intellectuals, in most cases, in most Muslim majority countries, have not been able to survive. They either have to flee, or in the words of Tariq Ali, what he states, that the Muslim intellectual is threatened by the ruler from jail, and by the mullah he is threatened by hell. So he has no place to survive and go. So with the result that the Muslim intellectual inquiry, free inquiry, scientific discovery, and other such issues, they couldn't take place within Muslim countries, despite we have more than 60 free Muslim nations existing in the world today. So due to these very reasons, due to the past of colonialism and due to the Mongol invasion, and then this self-imposed kind of hegemony of these dead brains of ulama on us. So it certainly has led to a situation where we don't find knowledge being created, or certain kind of discovery or scientific invention happening within the Muslim world. So these are the few reasons that I have articulated.
Yeah,
The
having
reason.
having said that, I would like to emphasize that it's time for us to get together and stay positive. There might be differences, there might be drawbacks on our level, on various levels, political, social, economical. But let's stay positive, and there needs this time we have to try to work together. And knowledge
Yes,
is very important. Knowledge changes generations. Knowledge changes many things. It changes. It gives you a new dimension. Many things are happening because people are not well informed. They don't have full knowledge, or they don't have the correct knowledge. So those who have the knowledge also have a responsibility to share that knowledge with others.
yes, obviously.
They should take this as a duty to share the knowledge in whatever way and whatever knowledge they have. It can start from school level, primary level, to the topmost level of postdoc. And it has been observed because I have been interacting with many people on this platform. Then we run another platform of the Gupshup Talks on our Instagram. So many people may be very well versed in their particular field, but in other fields they are not well versed. And religion is something which is private, personal, and which binds everyone together also. So there are various things which we don't know about our own religion somehow, and that is because we have not read the text ourselves. We get to know it through the
Yes,
scholars. We get to know it through the people who have been telling us. So I also feel that there is a strong need now for people to lockdown is there, and unfortunately or fortunately, this lockdown and the system like this is going to continue for a few more months. It's a good time for people to not only introspect but also to emphasize on the importance of knowledge. If they have some amount of curiosity, they should ponder over it and look at the sources and try to see. Because currently we are living in an era of fake news, and before that we were having an era in which anybody was getting any stuff randomly people used to say, and we need to see if anybody is saying something, is it authentic or not. There's a strong need for it. We are currently living in an era of fake news. So today's topic was knowledge and Muslims. We also have to see that the knowledge what we are gaining and what we are seeking is correct. It should not be a fake knowledge, because we invest a lot of resources, we invest a lot of time, emotions, money, many things in gaining knowledge. But it is our own responsibility. Like if I want to gain knowledge of, want to learn some kind of art, or want to learn language or a skill, I have to see that I pick it from the correct source. If I have to learn Arabic, I have to see that I learn it from a good teacher. If I have to learn a software, for example, Photoshop or Adobe Premium, any software, knowledge can be in any form. We have to see to it that we are well skilled also, because the now the levels are, there are various levels in which you can excel yourself.
yes,
It's not just a
and
writer can write a good book and we call him knowledgeable. No, there are other levels. We need professionals at multiple levels. We need professionals in all the levels to excel also. And that's why I said in the current times when it comes to Muslim Ummah and knowledge, there has been many there are many institutions actually working for it, and Islamization of knowledge is a very nice. But would you like to speak on it before we close? Islamization of knowledge.
Islamization of knowledge again. Ismail Raja Faruqi and other such
Yeah.
scholars tried to build a whole discourse of particularly in social sciences and
Yes.
other such allied sciences. They tried to Islamize them, but what my personal opinion is that this project basically failed to gain or
Momentum.
become mainstream Muslims. But yes, they built few universities like the Islamic University of International Islamic University in Malaysia and also in Islamabad. They were outcome of that project of Islamization of knowledge, and in a certain sense, they were a bit successful in basically translating or trying to just find a relationship between psychology and Islam and Islamic polity and Islam and economic system. So in that sense, it helped, but it could never become basically a mainstream, because we need to understand that the epistemology of these social sciences that basically developed in West was anti-religion. But they had nothing to do with religion. It basically they evolved when they divorced religion from these branches of knowledge. But for the Muslims, it's not possible, and within Muslims, it's not also essential that we divorce knowledge from revelation or from our religion. So it's not emphasized. So they try to amalgamate these epistemological kind of different of branches of knowledge, and a bit success was achieved, but obviously it could never became mainstream, as I delved that, because epistemologically the social sciences and sciences that developed in the West and were divorced from religion and any kind of source from revelation. But that can never happen with Islam or those knowledge systems that developed within Muslims. They always have this tinge or this color of religion among them, and it's very essential. But as I delved earlier, that these different reasons, the Mongol invasion, the colonialism, and the threat the Muslims felt due to colonial masters, and even the threat that the Muslims feel now due to the imperialism of West or other such issues, they still are reluctant to accept the Western kind of concept of knowledge that's divorced from revelation. So with the result that among the Muslims we witness that clergy and a retrogressive kind of clergy is there, as well as the Muslims don't in the mainstream also uh, have not developed that scientific inquiry that we witnessed with the first few generations of Muslims. So with the result now, we witness that presently Muslims are contributing very little to the knowledge creation, to the scientific discoveries, to the inventions, and as well as the Muslim societies in most cases are very intolerable when it comes to a different point of view or accepting some new kind of change. You may witness that earlier when the loudspeaker was introduced for giving azan or reciting Quran. So it was very much reluctant. The Muslims were reluctant, and it was very much opposed by the Muslim ulama that it should not be here. And as well as the case was similar with the introduction of the paper currency in the earlier years of British colonialism. So the Muslims again were very reluctant and antagonistic towards it. But then later on they had to accept for the pragmatic reasons both the loudspeaker as well as the paper currency. So now it's up to Muslim intellectuals and the Muslim scholars and the progressives among us that they should try to interact and try to bridge this divide that exists basically between the two knowledge systems, one the religious one and one the so-called secular one, because Islam does not believe in this kind of division, and this kind of divorce is quite antagonistic to the teachings of Islam. So it's for the Muslim intellectuals, for the progressive Muslim clergy and other conscious citizens among Muslims that they should bridge this divide and try to make the Muslims more productive and help in the creation of a new civilization or a new society based on the principles of knowledge, spirit of free inquiry, where Muslims certainly can contribute to the building of these knowledge systems or
Definitely. Definitely.
institutions.
Today we were interacting with Mushtaq Sikander on the topic knowledge and Muslims. Mushtaq is a writer, researcher. He has been with us before also, and inshallah in future also we'll have a couple of more sessions with him. He gave a very brief, wonderful overview about the Muslim Ummah, Muslim society, and the knowledge uh, from our historic times to Mongolian invasion to the time of Britishers, and to the current times. So it was a wonderful session with you, and a lot of things. It added a lot of knowledge to me, and inshallah, I hope that it would have added a lot of knowledge and information to the people who have been watching and who will be watching. This is an exclusive talk which we conduct on a voice YouTube channel and Facebook page. We keep on interacting with various personalities on varied topics who we request to speak on various issues of current importance. Inshallah, we'll be having other talks also, scheduled talks also very soon. Mushtaq sir, it was wonderful interacting with you. Thank you for your
Same
time.
here.
And inshallah,
Thank you
we'll be
for
speaking to you again. You laid a very important emphasis that knowledge is very, very important. It is essential, and we should all strive to seek knowledge. And there is a strong need for all of us to seek knowledge in whatever form it is, and we have to try very hard for that. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
thank you. Khuda. Salam.